Congressman Paul Gosar.
Thank you, Shane. Yeah. Thank you, folks. Well, I may not have legislative power, but I had this strange gift. It's called being a dentist. Bureaucrats kind of cringe because it shouldn't be about pulling teeth, but I'm happy to pull teeth. They just don't get any anesthetic. Thanks for the smiles. I needed those. Here's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to run through a PowerPoint here because I think people focus a lot more with pictures. And then we'll take some questions. Does that sound good? Yes. So away we go. First picture. One of the things we got to do is what was our plan? What did we accomplish? And let's look in the rearview mirror to see what we accomplished. Last year I had 6 bills signed and 12 additional pieces of legislation signed into law, becoming the most effective member of Congress, period, in the last Congress. The big key here is this third line here, 24 of 31 amendments passed. What that represents, that 31 amendments passed, means that I represented 1/10 of all the amendments during the appropriation process by all of Congress. Now think about that, of all of Congress. I had the result of cutting $1 billion out of the budget. Now imagine if 535 did that. We balance our budget. Pretty easy way to look at it. The other thing I wanted, they had an effect of 217,400 jobs. Not the government created jobs, a positive effect because what we attacked was rules and regulations. Okay? So let's see what we did. Next one. We got the Southeast Land Exchange passed, where it was an exchange of land that opened the 3rd largest copper reservoir in the world. This would bring $1 billion to our state's economy every year for the next 50 years once it's up and running. Finally got that done. Brings over 4,000 jobs, almost $300 million in annual wages. So a big deal to our state. And remember the 5 pillars of Arizona: cattle, citrus, climate, cotton, and copper. You know, even our skies are turquoise. That's got copper in them. Okay. Well, here's another one. The Catastrophic Wildfire Prevention Act. In fact, a gentleman today from Utah found out that we had passed some of these amendments that will allow it to go in and harvest beetle kills instantaneously with good stewardship. So this gets us back there. The second one was Bill Williams' Water Rights Settlement. This was an Indian water settlement. Article 1, Section 8, treaty obligations is the jurisdiction of Congress, right? Okay? This actually makes our water rights a little stronger in the Northwest. But here's another good one. I was responsible for cutting $353 million from the enforcement arm of the IRS. I thought you'd like that. I'm not liked in Virginia where all those people work. So, next one. So there's our rearview mirror. So we made a promise that we would cut spending, which we did, and we get something passed, even in a gridlock type of aspects. We just talked about the land exchange. It facilitates the largest underground, or the largest mine in Western Hemisphere, the 3rd largest. It may be the largest copper mine in the world. They just don't know from the assays yet. So this is a big deal. Copper is to Arizona as oil is to Texas. Okay, so we got some great things coming about because it's in everything. This would actually represent 25% of the US copper supply that we're utilizing currently. Just this mine. Okay? So we got a great opportunity here. And remember, this money circulates 7 to 8 times in our state before it leaves our state as a mining. So it's a huge economic engine. And these are jobs that run anywhere from $65,000 to $185,000 with benefits. So here we go, folks. Something kind of fun. Next one. These are some of the amendments that we actually passed. Number 2, if you look up here, prohibited funds for life-size photographs of buildings called scrims. When they do renovations, what they do is they have this huge scaffolding, which I like. I'm kind of an engineering guy, and so we like to see the marvels of how they do this. Well, they try to hide it with these lifelong pictures to make them look perfectly the same. And you're spending tens of millions of dollars just for these stupid scrims. And when we asked them why they do that, they said, well, that's what they do in Europe. Hey, got to stop that. Some of these that will be coming up real close, like is down here number 11, is secured $100,000 for the Lower Santa Cruz Amendment. This is a wash that starts in Mexico. They have high ground, and when we get the monsoons, it floods all the way up into the southern parts of Phoenix. So it destroys our infrastructure, our businesses, and our houses. So what this actually does is a means to start harnessing the water that's shed, so we can make it work for us. So last but not least, you'll like this one. The court actually confirmed something I put in every time since I've been in Congress, the Second Amendment right on Army Corps of Engineer land, that you can actually have the right to carry. It was a window that was actually held open by the Army Corps of Engineers by the way the law was originally passed on public lands. And so this makes it permanent that you actually can carry a weapon on Army Corps of Engineers land. Okay? Once again, these are some of the amendments that we talked about. Roughly $912 million in cuts. So we're looking at trying to help the taxpayer. Okay? So once again, just redundancy there. Next one. So here's something interesting. This took an act of Congress. So when we dammed up the Colorado, we prohibited fish from moving back and forth, right? So Congress commissioned these fish hatcheries for sports fishing. So what the Fish and Wildlife Service decided they were going to do is shut it down. They weren't going to allow trout fishing or trout to be planted into the Colorado River. They were going to use it for humpback chubs and razor suckers. Anybody want to catch one of those and have it for dinner? I didn't think so. So what we basically did is, with a combination of working with people locally and the supervisors or state legislators, we went to work and actually turned that around. I got to tell you a funny story. So Dan Ash, who's the head of Fish and Wildlife Service, was in front of my committee. And the county of Mojave came up with different alternatives to what they were talking about, this fish hatchery with this intake pipe. And he hadn't heard about them. So my staff downloaded these, and I got up and I went to hand it to him. And he cowered. He kind of thought I was going to hit him. And I said, I'm not going to hit you, but I'm not the U.S. Postal Service. I'm the U.S. Congress, and consider it delivered. And everybody kind of chuckled. And I guess you're not supposed to get off the dais. But it was delivered. We got our point across. Okay? But this only Congress should be authorizing the termination of any alteration to vital programs. And once again, the legislative process. We got to go back to the constitutional application. Next one. Here's one that we just passed. This is going to be something that's going to be of interest to all of us. This is the dock fix. What we've done in Congress is we've done 17 patches in the last 14 years. Okay? I was part of 4 of those. And when I look back at my 4 years of those patches, some of them I didn't get a chance to vote with, and I can explain that to you. If you'd have taken the money that you tried to patch it with and invested it properly, you would have paid for 7 years. Something's wrong with that equation. This was going to be a 20-some+% cut in the reimbursement rate to physicians. They were ready to walk out. So there's only $70 billion of the $200 billion that's outlaid over the 10 years it's paid for. But I took the leap of faith because we're going to go find the extra pay-fors to make this work. But we got to start showing people that we can fix problems. And this makes a big deal in regards to if we're going to reverse Obamacare. So this has got some fundamentals, but keep our feet to the fire so that we're paying for this as we go. Okay? So there's 2 good reforms that are in this. Next one. Looking forward, some of the things that are going to come about for us are immigration, the EPA overreach, healthcare reform, combating ISIS, and reducing spending. We got to start looking at these aspects. Okay? So immigration reform. Who was at the state Republican meeting? Anybody? Yes. Remember, everybody said that we're going to hold their feet to the fire, and what did I say? That ain't going to work. We're going to fold like a cheap suit. Well, we did. Andrew Hannon actually helped us out, and he's still holding his ground with the injunction in Texas. Yeah. But I want to tell you something. The news isn't all that good. The administration right now is working in the 24 states that didn't file the amicus brief with that injunction at actually parlaying this order into reality. Okay? There's something else along with this. Okay? Now, I want to share with you, because I was one of those people, I was actually the person that took down the rule for that DHS funding. I want to explain to you what transpired here. I was unnerved by what transpired, and I knew that the Cromnibus aspect was a concoction of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, and John Boehner. Somebody got left out and got her feelings hurt, and that's Nancy Pelosi. But what you elected me to do was strategize and make things happen, okay? So when we started looking at this Cromnibus with all the crap that was in it, we decided to take down the rule, a set of friends of mine. So what we figured out is if we could make a motion to Pelosi, she would gather all the Democrats and vote with us. That's exactly what we did. We voted 216 to 214 until something happened in front of me. To my immediate right was John Boehner. There were 9 of my colleagues. One of them was Kerry Bentivoglio from Michigan. The other one was Marlon Stutzman. And the majority leader was telling those 2 gentlemen that we weren't going to pass a Cromnibus, that we were going to pass a 3-month CR. That's the only reason those 2 gentlemen changed their vote. And then what did they do? They moved the whole crap in the bus forward. They actually lied to us. That's how it went from 216 to 214. And we lost that rule. So that's what it takes to stand up, okay? So we almost had it. But we're not done, okay? Next one. This is what Nancy Pelosi said. And I said, hey, if this is security, come to Arizona, because we have no security whatsoever on our southern border. Okay, next one. This is going to shock you. There's usually a group that follows me around. It's the same group that's following around the Republicans running for president. So I feel like it's kind of nice. Now I'm in the same group of people. But they're a very liberal immigration group because I'm very poignant about this immigration issue. But here's some of the truth about what's going to happen to some of these people that are here illegally. They will be eligible for $24,000 to $36,000 of your tax money going directly to them for the unearned income tax credit. The year they're brought in and 3 back years. This is fact. Okay, not everybody will get it, but there are a number of them that will. And most of the time, if you're dealing with the federal courts, they'll find a way to make it fair so that almost all of them get that. Okay, so this is shocking. Okay, next one. So there's something that we found out in statute. It's called the Anti-Deficiency Act. So Dr. Gosar, what's the Anti-Deficiency Act? It basically is a statute or a law that says for over 100 years that if Congress didn't statutorily tell you to work with a scenario, and if they didn't appropriate money, you can't use it for any other purpose. Over 100 years old. Okay? In conference, I went 3 different times to the microphone and said, are we looking at the Anti-Deficiency Act? On the 4th time, after we had passed Homeland Security bill, I went to the speaker and said, aren't you going to do something about the Anti-Deficiency Act? I've actually asked for an audit from the Government Accountability Office, and they've looked at me in disarray. He said, Paul, I don't know what you're talking about. Folks, this is a core bill and law. If Congress doesn't specifically allow it and doesn't appropriate the money, you can't spend it. So to his credit, he brought his whole staff with my staff, along with the majority leader staff, and they're looking for an audit. So we may be able to hold this president accountable because of that. So stay tuned. But we got to thank my staff, because my staff, your staff, works tirelessly to find all these little things, okay? So this is a big deal, because it's not been used by the House and Senate in collaboration and can be an instant lawsuit against the president. Now that to date, they've only hired 2 that we're aware of, 2 employees. That's too many still. So we should be able to nip this that quickly, okay? Next one. Once again, the promise from the president, this just basically tells you, you can't spend this money without congressional authorization. Plain and simple. Okay? Next one. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. And that's all we're doing right now. And when we didn't stop the president on Homeland Security, he got a willpower that